There's lots of reasons why you might want to transplant your plants, meaning move them to another place in the garden. Now we're going to be talking about perennials because it's pointless to move other plants around. You just plant annuals and they either reseed themselves or they don't come back. But with perennials, you can move them around. One of the reasons to move them is that if they outgrow a certain place, they just keep getting bigger and bigger, a clump of them. So you just divide up the clump and move them into different places. And another place might be is if you notice that it's a plant that would do better in another place, like say it likes full sun or it likes shade, or it's just not doing well in a certain place, then you can just move it to a different place. Now here is the steps you can use. Do it the right time of year, which for me is early spring. Some people have success with fall, but I like spring the most. And get the new location ready. It should have the right conditions for the plant and moisture and sun and soil type and whatever the plant wants. And then you dig a hole that's just a little bit bigger, like 1.5 times or 2 times bigger. Then you go to the perennial, and if it needs to be divided up, and I just usually chop them up with my shovel. But you could use a saw. Some people use a saw. And now you've chosen the new location for the plant, has the right conditions. Dig a hole a little bit bigger and pull the plant up and take it to the hole that you have already dug, and keeping as much dirt around it, dig around out a little bit, maybe 5 inches or so away from the plant, so you get as many roots as possible. And I actually just carry the clump on my shovel so it doesn't break up, and carry it to the hole I've already made, and then put it in without breaking up the clump, because you want to preserve as many roots as possible. And then put mulch around it and water it unless the ground's pretty nearly frozen. And there you go. You don't want to do it when the ground is frozen, but by April or May it's starting to warm up enough that you can do that. And like I do, sometimes I move in March if the soils can be worked. And so here's some examples of things I'm moving around. Preparing the hole for your plant, you want to pull up the weeds around it and dig a hole just a little bit bigger than the clump. And here it is. Just set it in there, and you want to set it at the same ground level. So if you want, you can put some more dirt in at the bottom so it's at the same ground level that it was before. Then you put some mulch around it, just like this. Just hold it up and just put some mulch around the plant. This organic material is really good for your plants. And then when you get done, give it a drink if the ground's not too cold and wet. And so when you dig up the plant, move your shovel out a few inches away from the plant and try and get as nice of a root ball as you can. And sometimes I just actually put it right on my shovel and carry it so the root ball doesn't break up. And then I hold it right at ground level and push the dirt in around it. Then put some mulch in around it. Now dig a hole a little bit bigger than what you think the plant is going to be. And this here is bee balm, and it didn't get enough sun, so I moved it up here where it gets a lot more sun. And it's too tall for where it was, so I'm just putting some mulch in around it now after I moved it up here. I make my mulch, it's just bark chips and grass clippings. And I got a compost tumbler. This is a sweet violet I'm going to move because it seeded itself out in the lawn. So I'm going to move it up to a flower bed, which is kind of a nice wild flower bed. And you can see I forgot to dig the hole first. But just hold the root ball together as much as you can. And put it in there and hold it at ground level while you push the dirt in around it. And if there's clumps, just break them up and push the dirt back in around it. And here's a big clump of hostas. Now, this is a time when you might want to dig up something because it needs to be divided. It just gets too big. And so what you do is you just keep digging around it and prying up as you go. Just keep gently prying up all the way around it and just keep digging all the way around it and prying up with your shovel. One time I actually put my foot on the shovel to push it towards the ground to pry it up, and I actually ended up breaking the handle off, but that was with the bush. That wasn't with hostas. So you don't have to worry about breaking your shovel on hostas. Just the roots of some old bush. This is my favorite kind of shovel. I think they call it a spade, but it's the one I always use for transplanting. It's just the one I like. Everybody has their different preferences. In the wintertime, I sharpen the bottom of it with a file. Now just lift it out of the ground. If you can lift it, this was pretty heavy. And then I take my shovel and just chop the two. I'm just going to chop this one in half and have two of them to plant. You could probably do this one a good 4 times if you wanted. I just chop it in there and then kind of divide it apart. Some people use the saw, and other people might use 2 spading forks and pry it apart, but I think the shovel's about the easiest way. And just dig a nice hole, at least a little bit bigger than that clump that you just dug up and divided. Push the dirt in around it. And here we go. I planted a whole row of hostas all the way along the back fence here. And that's how you divide and transplant perennials. And I hope this was a lot of help to you. And if you can, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And thanks a lot, and goodbye. I'll see you next time.